Okay, so now we've got our calories. We've got our calories, our total daily energy expenditure made up. Now, how do we plot that into calories? How do we get, the protein, the fats and carbs? How do we get the macronutrient split? We're going to cover that now. So we remember that protein and fats are essential. So we know that we have a baseline requirement for protein and fats that we have to be hitting, and then we just fill the rest in with carbs, or we can make some adjustments based off any dietary preference that you might have. So protein intake for optimal functioning of the human system in general, muscle repair and growth, we're looking at anywhere between 1.6 to 3.1 kilograms, 3.1 grams per kilogram of target body weight. Uh, Most people find comfort around two grams per kilogram. Some of these higher protein strategies have shown to, in an off season or in a calorie surplus, help starve off the accumulation of unnecessary fat, um, and then even in a deficit as well, uh, helping offset the the any chance of, you know losing any muscle mass during a dieting phase as well. Although you could probably safely assume that you'll get all those benefits from around 2 grams per kilogram. That's the sweet spot where most people in the industry seem to be sat around there. And these intakes that I've got here come from a combination of the International Society of Sports Nutrition, the Clean Health Fitness Institute, which is a registered training organisation in Australia, and then Precision Nutrition, which is a registered training organisation in America, and I think it's recognised in Europe as well. So you can hang your hat on these estimates being a very, very good place to start. So let's say, for talking sakes, we just go 2 grams per kilogram of target body weight. We're aiming for 80 kilos, 160 grams of protein per day, dead easy. Then uh, we want to look at fats to support hormone and brain health with these healthy fats in our diets. So we want to be no less than zero point 0.8 grams per kilogram. I've seen people go lower, but I'm pretty happy with that recommendation there, and therefore let's just go, for talking sakes, we'll make it easy and we go a gram per kilogram of target body weight, and we make that again uh, 80 grams of protein, 80 grams of fat, sorry, for the day. Then what do we do with the rest? We just fill the rest with carbohydrates. The remaining calories we fill with carbohydrates. So you take your remaining amount of calories that you've got, and you just divide that number by four, and then that will give you an amount for four by the 4 calories per gram of carbohydrates, and then that will give you a carbohydrate number to hit. Let's just call it, 300 grams of carbohydrates per day. There you go. That's your macronutrients. Now, what is the most important thing to worry about? Protein intake and overall calories is where you should be focusing most of your attention. If I was to say to you two things, but and that's what a lot of people kind of say. I would add a little caveat to that, and I would say focus on three things: focus on protein intake, focus on overall adhering to the overall calories that you're looking to adhere to, and make sure that you're getting an adequate micronutrients. And then however we fill the rest, if it's carbs, higher fats one day versus the next, it doesn't really matter. As they've done calorie controlled diets, and kept protein intake the same, and just changed protein intake and calories the same, and just changed the ratio of carbs and fats. One was high carb, one was high fat, and they saw no difference in body weight reduction or fat loss reduction over a period of time. So we know it doesn't really matter that much, and it's much more important to go what is your preference, what is the way that you like to eat, what's the way that you enjoy eating, and then just make adjustments from there. So in terms of now adjusting for goals, so that was our maintenance calories, say. Now if we're adjusting for either a deficit or a muscle gaining phase, a lean gaining phase, for a calorie deficit, whilst looking to maintain protein levels don't change. If we're going into a calorie deficit, we just reduce from carbohydrates and fats, or we increase daily movement, or some combination of all those three things. A steady to aggressive diet would be a 10% deficit to a 40% deficit. So, when you're thinking a 40% deficit, that's, we're looking at, probably a kilogram per week, or round about that. Somewhere like 10% might only be like a couple of 100 grams, something there, per week that we're losing, or maybe even just a body recomp where we're maybe not seeing the scales changing too much, but we're seeing a noticeable change in our composition, as in we are allowing a small amount of fat loss and a small amount of muscle gain to happen simultaneously. This happens commonly with people who've either had a long time off and a long time off training and have came back, or newbies who are new to training are really really do well with that kind of body recomposition. Again, if you're looking to go into a muscle gaining phase, you take your maintenance calories and go into a small 10% calorie surplus, and you look for these small increases, 0.25% to a percent of body weight increase per week, say, and you'll just make some adjustments off of that. So you'll just monitor those calories. Eventually, you'll get to a point where, say, you're at 10%, so that would be 2750. You're eating 2,750 calories. At some point, that's not going to get it done. Your body's going to adjust, and that's not going to be enough calories. You're going to stop putting on weight. So then you go a little bit higher again. You might go 2950, and then you just bump it up by a couple of hundred calories each time you kind of stall for a 2 week period or something. Track your macros. Use apps like Chronometer or MyFitnessPal to track your caloric adherence, and how the foods that you're tracking and how things are working, and just to make sure that we've got some data that we can manipulate if we need to, if we're not getting the progress that we're looking for. Chronometer has a lot more details in terms of micronutrients and your micronutrient status, and I prefer that. MyFitnessPal is maybe a little bit more digestible, a little bit more easier to take in. Again, stay flexible, focus on consistency with protein intake and caloric intake and micronutrients, as I've touched on, and adjust those calories as needed with carbohydrates and fats. Flexible dieting practices, so 80-90% of your total calories coming from whole minimally refined foods, whilst 10 to 20% calories can come from anything else. So that's, beers, wines, chocolate, ice cream, whatever it is, as long as it's within, that 10 to 20%, it's absolutely fine, provided that the other 80 to 90% is nailed on with, whole foods, fruits, vegetables, adequate protein intake. And then we're looking at consistency over perfection. Nobody that I have who has made incredible progress, including myself, is perfect. Far from it. Nothing that I do is perfect, but I'm consistent with it. And that consistency becomes our accuracy over a period of time, and we're able to just adjust it and tweak our intakes and tweak what we're doing based off of that consistency.